Welcome, welcome, welcome to Templates for Teachers. It's one of those websites that I promote over and over and over again. And man, just to be like with the creators of the website is redonkulous. It's almost like being like Facebook before it blew up. So y'all are so lucky. I'm lucky. You guys are lucky. And we are going to hop into some announcements. So I am Dr. Desiree Alexander. I am your host today. And if you're like, oh, your energy is infectious, well, thank you. And if you're like, oh, your energy is too early, that's okay. I'm not the one presenting, so you don't have to worry about me. But I am the host for today. And this is coming to you from Educator Alexander Consulting. This is all of my contact information. So you are welcome to follow me on Twitter at Educator Alex or Facebook and YouTube and all those other great platforms, Educator Alexander. So let me tell you about some awesome things that we have coming up today. What? 2 in 1 day? Yes, 2 in 1 day. Today we have Canvas tips and tricks coming up right at 1. So right when this one is ending, go get yourself some coffee, kiss yourself in the mirror, I don't know, and then come on back for Canvas tips and tricks. You do have to register, so make sure that you register. You see that website at the bottom? That's where you can register. And then later in September, we have Teaching Digitally with the amazing Nadine. If you don't follow her on Twitter, you are missing out on some awesome resources. So come back and listen to her. And then we have the amazing Sarah. Like, what can we say about Sarah, right? I mean, it's like old hat. It's when those people that just keep winning awards. You're like, just stay on the stage. That's Sarah, right? So she's going to come back and give us the intro into Wakelet. Then we have Sarah coming back, the only one in October, the only webinar in October. So I know y'all are going to be scratching and itching for a webinar, but we have one coming up at the end of October right there on Halloween, Intro to We video. Then in November, we have Nadine coming on back. You can't get enough with tech abilities for struggling readers. And then we have the just peaceful and wonderful Tanya, who is all about mindfulness, and she teaches an online Zoom class and just all kind of stuff. We love her. And she's actually going to be doing a series in the spring. So this is kind of like the kickoff of the series, and that's Mastering Mindfulness for Educators right before the holidays, right? We want to get mindful. So there you go. And we have some other ones that are being planned as we speak. And the other event that I'm going to promote right now, because I have about 5 to put on the website this week. So keep your eyes on the website, TCCA, and so many good free virtual events that I need to promote. I just haven't had the time. So the one that I want to do right now is Virtual Ed Camp Louisiana. Do you have to live in Louisiana? Of course not. It's virtual. So come learn with Louisiana educators and educators from around the globe. It is free. It is short, 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. and you get so much good stuff. And of course, it's an ed camp, so you learn what you want to learn. So make sure that you register for that. So we will have an evaluation at the end. If you are watching this on YouTube, you do not get a certificate. Womp, womp. I'm so sorry, but you do still get the knowledge. And if you look right under the video in the description, if you click on show more, you'll see the resource that they're giving out today. And if you're watching us live, I am going to post the evaluation 15 minutes before the session ends, and that's when you can start filling out that evaluation and getting their certificate. And if you're like, I missed out on the resource too because I came late, don't come late. No, just kidding. I'm going to post it again, no problems. So what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to stop sharing my screen because it's not about me. It's about Sarah. It's about Beth. So they're going to share their screen, and then I'm going to be quiet and let them get started. But another small announcement is make sure that we are not on camera if we are here live, because we only want to see the presenters. And Sarah just said, shut your mouth, by putting her screen up. So I'm going to be quiet and let her take it away.
Okay, unmuting myself, key piece of information there when you're presenting online. Thank you everyone for coming. Beth and I are so incredibly excited to be here and share this. This website www.templatesforteachers.com is truly like our little baby. Like this is something that has grown from just an idea into a website to something even bigger. And we are just so excited to share this out. Thank you, Desiree, for promoting us so much and giving us the hour today to share these out with a much bigger audience than we would probably typically reach on our own. And just know that everything that we have created on this website, number one, is free. Number two, it uses Google tools. So you can, if you're familiar enough with Google tools, you're able to modify, you're able to add to it, to subtract from it, change colors, fonts, all that kind of stuff, whatever it is that suits you and your students the best. And with that little bit of an introduction, I would like to introduce my partner in this website, Beth Kingsley, and then I'll tell you a little bit more about myself. But Beth Kingsley is a colleague of mine, actually, and good friend. So Beth, if you want to take over and tell everybody about yourself a little bit.
Hi, I want to welcome everybody and thank you for spending your Saturday with us. I know that weekends are very precious and valuable, so the fact that you're spending your Saturday, in our case it's morning, is a wonderful thing. So thank you for coming. We're located in Ohio, so if you know anything about Ohio, we're closer to Cincinnati. I live up in Oxford, which is the home of Miami University, which I heard made national news the other day, not for necessarily great reasons, but so we're living up there. I teach third grade. This is my 19th year that I just started teaching, so I've been doing it for a long time. I'm a huge Google enthusiast and make my kids so tech savvy by the end of the year that the fourth grade teachers, I think, kind of love it because they know exactly what they're doing and they know how to do everything almost by then. They teach me things all the time. So yeah, Sarah and I have been working together for several years now. So yeah, this is our baby. So thank you guys so much for coming and we're excited to share it.
And then just website is on the screen. It's been posted in the chat. It's real easy. It's just templatesforteachers.com. Go to it, check it out. We're going to kind of go through the site, give you a little more detail. My name is Sarah Kiefer. I am a technology integration specialist for the Ross Local Schools, also where Beth teaches, and I'm a former classroom teacher. So my whole vision, mindset, thought process truly does go back to the teachers, supporting them, helping them, and I love creating for them, with them, and for their students. I also have been teaching for 19 years, and 5th grade as well as 7th and 8th grade, and then I moved into this role, and I'm able to help a tremendous amount of teachers through my role because I split my time between 2 elementary buildings, which is another point. Yes, Beth and I are both down at the elementaries, but we're going to also focus in on, key in on, talk about how our templates are more than for just our elementary people. So on this next slide, it gives you a little bit of information about us. Obviously, our Twitter handles. I do write a blog. I try to blog once a week. That has been a little bit less than what I've been able to do because of everything that's been going on starting the school year. Beth and I went back to school this week, face-to-face with our kids, and so far, so good, guys. Like, I'm so excited. But these templates can be used face-to-face. They can be used remotely. They can be used in some sort of like a hybrid situation if you would want. So keep all of those things in mind as we go through here. Everybody's situation is going to be different and possibly unique, but if you stop and you think a little bit creatively about a topic or about a template, we can make it work. We can do this. And if you need ideas, that's why we give out our Twitter handles. You can contact me through my blog. Contact us, ask us, tweet at us, ask us questions, ask us for help. We'll help you out. I know Desiree will as well. And with that, let's move on to really the background of our story.
So like we said, we worked together. The first time that I met Sarah was when we did something over the summer. We used to do technology seminars just for our own district. So they called it Teachnology. So Sarah and I would each teach our own separate sessions, and we would kind of bump into each other in between sessions. But that's how Sarah and I met, because we were in different buildings, and it's not often that our buildings really kind of interact with each other. We don't see each other too often. So that's when she was teaching in the middle school, and I was still at the elementary. So she finally got to be our tech integration specialist and came down to the elementary, so I got to see her like every day. So I would start making these different activities using Google Slides or Google Docs. And I would ask Sarah's opinion about things, or how she would do it, or how she would tweak it, or she would see some of the cool things that I was using, and I would see some of the things that she was doing. So we just started kind of working together often. And then she would take one of my templates and use it with some of the other teachers, because she's between 2 elementary buildings, so she would take some of them over there to use. So we just kind of decided that we've got something going on here, and we want to share these things out, and it's not something where we want to charge people for it. Like, we just want to share in order to help our colleagues and do cool things, and so that everybody can benefit from them, because the students are the ones who truly benefit. So yeah, and back in 2018, a much simpler time, we created templates for teachers. And so at the time, it was on a little bit of a different, we used a different site at the time, and we've changed it over since then to Blogger, which everything's kind of still new, and we've got all of our templates moved over as of today. Sarah moved all of our templates over. So we've just been sharing out. We started a Twitter handle this past summer, spring, summer. Everything's kind of meshing into one time period. Everything since March has seemed like, is it summer? Is it spring? Who knows? But we've had a really positive response. We've had people comment on our templates. We've had lots of people from all over the world, which is a wonderful thing. And just being able to see in the chat where everyone is from here is phenomenal. And it just warms my heart, truly, because we're in Ohio, and that's where we would share. And normally we were just doing not webinars, but we would go to conferences, and they would be in Ohio. So the fact that we can reach out to all of you from across the globe is just amazing. So.
All right, so let's do a little preview first. I'm going to actually go to our website, and you can see it's just templatesforteachers.com. And we, like Beth said, we had started on a different website. It was just a Google site, and really did love it and everything like that. But then just for different circumstances, we decided to switch to Blogger, which is a Google blogging website. That I use also for my own blog, and found this cute little way of displaying these. And they look almost like Post-it notes or maybe postcards kind of thing. So these give you a preview of what we've created, but when you're ready to, you'll click on the actual template, and then it will expand and it will give you a lot of detail. So be sure to check that out, and then you can move back and forth between them. And we'll get more into moving through the site and everything, but we wanted to start out with giving you a view of what our website looks like, and then know that there is a lot here. I don't remember the exact number. I think we're upwards of 70 templates, probably more than that even. And they're all kinds of different contents, age group focuses. Some are specifically meant to use with students right away. Some are specifically targeted at teachers. So we're going to kind of bounce around and go back and forth. If you have questions, please do pop them in the chat. Beth and I are going to keep our eye on it, and we're going to bounce back and forth just like we've already been doing. So be sure to ask questions. If you see something that you like and you end up going off on a tangent, have at it. Enjoy. So Beth, you want to start with the first template?
Yeah, so this is one of the examples of the templates that we've created. This is a newspaper template. And the great thing about these is when you click on them, and Sarah had opened up that window, it's not just the template itself. First of all, you get a sneak peek of it with a snapshot, 'cause it's always nice to see what it's going to look like when you go to use it. but it also gives that description. And then we've come up with a few ways that you can modify it, just some like brief ideas of different ways that you can modify it. So on most of the templates, there's a spot that talks about how you can modify it for younger students, which I have 3rd grade. So mine are not the youngest grade level that uses our templates. Of course, we've got our 2nd, 1st kindergarten using them all the way up to high school age. And then we have some of our templates actually have been modified already to use for older kids or for younger, vice versa, based on it. And so that'll give you those links to those as well. And then there's one to preview it, which is wonderful. And then you can have it comes up in a blue button on the side that will say that you can use the template. That way you can look at it and see it before you actually commit to it. Or there's one where you can just view it only, and then you'll have to make a copy from there. So Sarah, did you want to click on that one? We're going to go ahead and go to the actual template. And then, like I said, you can click on that links to preview the template if you want to click on that and see it. And then it comes up as a blue button on the corner for using the template. So if you click through the arrows on the toolbar down the navigation bar at the side, it'll show you the different slides, the different pages that are already in there. So for younger kids, I might use this, even it's back to school, right? So I could have them write a newspaper about themselves, and they could do like a short little article where they insert their own picture, where that little silhouette of the guy is, and then they can write a small article about themselves, like what they want their teacher to know. It could be what I did over the summer. It's completely up to you and how you want to modify that. If you have older kids, they could do all 3 of the little pages that are on the side. You could also make it a collaborative effort between your kids. So you could have a small group of kids. You could do this virtually or in class. Like our kids are face-to-face right now, and they're not really supposed to be kind of interacting with each other too much. So having it on Google makes it really perfect for that, because they can still share their screens with each other and be working on it, even though they're not directly side by side. They might still be in the same room, they might be virtual, but they can all still work collaboratively together, which makes it perfect for the world that we're living in right now. So you could have one kid do a sports section, one kid could do the entertainment section. You could change up the sections completely. They can make it their own, and that's the whole point of it, is that we don't just want them to use, or teachers to use, the way that it's given. We want them to be able to take it and modify it and make it so that it fits your class, your age group of kids. It's all about that. When you click on that use template that was up in the corner, it automatically makes it a copy and puts it into your drive. It doesn't label it copy, which is always nice, because I know that sometimes I'll click on stuff and then everything's alphabetized with the word copy on it. And then I have tons of things that say copy. And so it automatically keeps it, the name of it. That way it's not just a copy title. But yeah, so I would definitely use this as a way to meet and greet our kids. You could use the newspaper as, they could be researching current events. They could be writing something in response to a book that you guys are reading. It's completely up to you, and you're only limited by your imagination for it, really.
Beth, there was a comment in the chat that Sharon really appreciates the template preview option, so that you can see, and that is something that Beth and I have both absolutely taken to heart. I got tired of having all of these things in there that, or not being able to see what it was that I was making a copy of. Like, it sounds really good, but then you make a copy of it and you're like, ugh. And then you have to take that extra step of going through and deleting it, which I know doesn't sound like a lot, but if you do that multiple times, it does. So I do want to show everyone a real quick URL hack, just because that came up. If you are at a site that, or a web page that says this, would you like to make a copy? Up here, and this works best on a computer, not so much necessarily on your phones, although I do think it probably works if you're in a Chrome browser or possibly Safari. I'm not 100% on that. But if you come up here, if you notice, the last word on here is copy. So let's say I'm at a random person's website. I want to make a copy of this, but I don't know what this newspaper template looks like. You don't have to have any kind of specific access to this. Just delete the word copy and then type in the word view, V-I-E-W, and then hit the return key, and it will take you to a view only version. I've done this numerous times because I would get that same feeling. I don't want it to clutter everything up. But that's a big reason why Beth and I use the template preview option to be able to share it with all of you. So you can actually see it, go through all the slides, all the pages before. So that was just one little tip in there. We're full of all of those little tips. So if you have other ideas, questions, pop them in the chat. Maybe we won't get to them today, but we can help you out with that. So like Beth said on this template, there is one here too that we've linked for older students. And then down at the very bottom, we have also used these labels. So make sure that you're checking out these labels because we've tried to also kind of give categories. So if you're looking for an ELA or a writing project, or maybe a middle school focused age group something, you can easily click on any of the labels at the bottom. The labels also show up over here to the right on those little black, dark gray rectangles, I guess is probably the best way to phrase that, with that little tag. So if you click on that labels, you can go through and you can see all of the labels that we have already attached to a template. And you're free to go through and it just narrows down your search, which again, Beth and I are both teachers. We're in the classroom. We know time is tight, especially these days. We have 12 different hats on our heads at the same time. So using these labels to help you filter your searches, it may not be perfect, but it is an option if you just want to look at Google Slides, which probably is our top used tool. So you see how it filters that. We have not found a way, if you wanted to do a Google Slide for sixth graders, like we've not found a way to do the cross filtering, but this is a good start for you. So with that, our next template is teacher focused. And if you remember at the beginning, we talked about how some of these are straight up ready for student use, like the one that Beth was just talking about, the newspaper. We also have some, not quite as many, that are more geared directly towards the teacher being the main creator and the main content filler, if you will. So for example, this is a newsletter. I'm going to go ahead and click on this. And then Beth, if you want to take over, because you actually created this one as well.
Yeah, so this one, I believe, I want to say it's in Google Docs, whereas the other one was in Google Slides. This is the basic outline that I use for my own personal classroom newsletter. It's made, oh, it is in Slides, sorry. It's made so that the page setup can be one where you can print it out. So a big tip in making templates is I always try to change my page setups so that they can be 8.5 by 11, or if you want to turn it as a landscape and be 11 by 8.5, so that if I decide that I need to print something out, it's already formatted that way and I don't have to take another step of altering the page size to make it look so it'll print correctly. It's just easier if I go ahead and do it ahead of time. And if I don't want to print it out, is that okay? Absolutely. This year, I might be printing newsletters, but in last year, I had this really great idea that because my kids all had individualized spelling lists, I had it so that they could only fill in that middle box that said spelling words. So I put a transparent image over all of the other parts of it. My kids each got their own copy. I put it in Google Classroom where each kid got a copy of it. I had already filled out that box that says important dates that are upcoming. And then the bottom two boxes, I would put, anything that was coming up, like it's going to be cold outside, please start wearing a coat, or, something's coming up, or you need to turn in some papers, or we have an assessment coming, like whatever it was that was coming up that day. But I made it so that they could only type in that box that said spelling word. So each kid had their own individualized spelling word for the week. They typed in, I put little boxes in on each line. The kids filled in all their spelling words. And then at the end, I would check it first, and then they would share it with their parents. So it automatically went home. There was no chance of, I lost my paper, I can't find my spelling words, my mom doesn't know what my spelling words are. It automatically shared to them every single day. So that was a big help. This year's a little bit different, so I'm going to be printing out this one, but I'm still using that exact same template. It's just a matter of all my kids had the same spelling words this year because we can't do buddy tests. So it's just that whole world of we're adapting and making do, but I'm still using that exact same newsletter. And my colleagues, since we're all doing my third grade team, we're all going to use that same newsletter. I've shared it with my colleagues. All they have to do is change the title of it to whatever their own is. If they need to add in dates, they can do that and have their own. But that way, all of us are on the same page in case we end up having to go virtually at some point. That way, we're all right there together. So that's kind of the template that I have. Yeah, I mean,
Beth, there's a question in the chat.
Yes.
And I apologize. I'm probably not going to say her name right. Kalia. Asking if you could expand on how you had the students share it with their parents, and were there any hiccups or any suggestions or thoughts?
I see the part where it says, do they have to have a Gmail address? No, you don't have to have a Gmail address in order to do that. What I did was I had the parents at the beginning of the year fill out a Google form with their emails in it, and it automatically generated to a spreadsheet. So I took that information and I put it so it was an easier to use format. I just made it like bigger for the kids, and I shared it with the kids in Google Classroom as a one-time resource. The kids then copied their own parents' email, and then they put it in that share. When they hit share, they shared it with their parents one time. So they had to really share it with them one time. The next time that they went to share it, because it'll say something like, do you want to share out of your, it's not network, but out of our domain, because our kids have their own domain we're in Ross. But once they shared it with their parent one time, all they had to do the next time when they hit share, they would start typing like the first letter of their parent's email address, and it would automatically pop up. And so then they would just click on it. So they didn't really have to know their parents' email address all the time. They would just have to know the first letter of it, really. So I hope that helps. I've also put them in Seesaw before. I've used Seesaw where it automatically shares. They would just kind of add it to their journal. They upload it to their journal, which was really easy. And that's kind of like if you want to add that extra app to it. We use Seesaw a lot just because the kids could share things out with their parents automatically, their family members automatically. I hope that helps. But yeah, once you share something in Google with somebody once, their email address will automatically like save. And so you just have to basically start typing the first letter and it'll pop right up. I hope that's helpful. I saw, Sarah, too, you were replacing the images on there.
Yeah, there was a question in the chat if the images can be changed. And that's another big thing that Beth and I both hold very dear, is that this might be the exact template that Beth wants to use with her third graders, or her team wants to use with their whole class. But please keep in mind that very little of our templates, and sometimes we try to lock it down so that it's easier for students. But if you want to change the picture, you can, adjusting the text that's in here. Maybe you don't have a class website. You could take that out and put the date much bigger. We understand fully that not every teacher at every grade level has to do spelling words. Swap out that section for upcoming information. Or I saw in the chat, I think it was Susan shared about in high school, maybe it's a class picture of an activity that you're doing, or upcoming SAT, AP test dates, other resources. Take these ideas, because that's where, when Beth and I talk to other teachers, sometimes it's a little bit hard for teachers when they're so overwhelmed with everything else that we have to do in the course of our day. Like, what do I even start with? where do I go with my idea? Like, I need to do this for my kids, but I don't even have a beginning. Use our templates. We would love it, I should say. We would love it if you used our templates to kind of start that inspiration process. But by no means do these have to stay exactly like what this is. Maybe even the size gets changed. So that's another thing that Beth and I do firmly believe in sharing out our templates. Modify them, make them your own, make them work for your students. Colors, if you're going to print it and you don't have a color printer, find a picture that maybe looks better in black and white. It's all up to you.
Yeah, and I always change the picture out every week just so that parents know that it's a different newsletter too. So, I mean, I'll use my Bitmojis, I'll put something for the start of the month. I mean, I change the picture every single week just so that parents aren't like, oh, I already got this one, and they throw it away. Because we all know that happens.
All right, let's go to another one, because sometimes templates, when we think of them, they're not for kids to go in and manipulate. They're not necessarily for teachers to go in and manipulate often, but we do use Google Classroom in our K-4 buildings. We use Schoology for our upper grades, but there are a lot of other things you could think about, things like your Twitter background. If you use Wakelet, a lot of these other things. So Beth also created this template that you can use for if you're going to create your own Google Classroom and you want to adjust the header and the background. Beth kind of put in some generic, because this is specific to her, and obviously I don't think she'd mind if you put her Bitmoji in your classroom. It just may be kind of odd for your students. I had shared out on one of my blogs the idea behind using a Google Classroom header, which is what Beth is providing to you here, but allow your students, because this is in a Google drawing. So in a Google drawing, you could share this with your students and allow your students to help you create the Google Classroom header. What a great idea for students to take a little bit more ownership of their own classroom to create this. And the header can be swapped out, honestly, at any time that's appropriate. Maybe you move into a new quarter and you create a new Google Classroom. You want a new classroom banner. You could do that as well. So that's where our templates are very flexible in that respect. Make them fit. Get them to what they need to be for you and your students. And I like Desiree's idea in the chat. Maybe connect with the art teacher and do a contest. Absolutely. Absolutely. And for the upper grades, especially when you get into junior high and high school, some of your students are going to really gravitate towards this, and they're going to be able to use their design skills or their art skills, their creativity pieces. And maybe you have a Google Classroom, say, per unit. This unit is on cells. Maybe that's what the theme of the Google Classroom header should be. And they have to create something, and then the kids could vote on it, and all kinds of different ways that you could use this classroom header. Sharing it out because it's a Google tool, right? You can share it to as many people as you would like, and then they can collaborate on it.
I think that customizing your own Google headers too for your Google Classroom is a really nice way for you, the teacher, to keep yourself organized. Because if you have a different, like if you're in the upper grades and you have a different class for each period, you could customize one for each one, or at least change the colors or something so that you can see at a glance exactly which one is the class that you're looking for. I think that's always helpful. Sarah, we also had a question about Schoology and if our templates are still able to be used in Schoology, which they are, but you know a little bit more about Schoology than I do because I have not used it before.
Absolutely. Schoology, if you're a user of Schoology, like I said, our 512 use Schoology. I used Schoology for a couple of years when I still was in the classroom teaching 7th and 8th grade. And it has a lot of similarities. It's definitely not identical. There are differences, but there are also a lot of similarities. There is a feature called the Google Drive integration. Make sure, Roberta, that you get familiar with that, because that Google Drive integration will allow you to pull anything in from your Google Drive, a slide, a doc, a sheet, a drawing, whatever it is that you need to. You can pull it in from your drive, and then you'll see the same features of students can view, all students can edit, make a copy for your students. you can do similar things. It's worded a little different. It looks a little bit different, but absolutely any of our templates can be pulled in through that Drive integration, and a copy can be made for your students. You may have to think a little bit more creatively, like if you're sharing it to just specific groups of students, but it absolutely can be done. And quite honestly, if you have questions about Schoology, I was with Desiree, maybe, I don't know, 3 weeks ago now. I don't remember exactly the date, but Desiree has another webinar that I did with Alyssa Bruck, one of our junior high teachers, all about Schoology. And she uses the Google Drive feature a lot with her students. That's how she gets her kids to have copies of the docs and the slides and the drawings and things that she does. So absolutely, it can work with Schoology.
Oh, great. Desiree put the link to that in our chat. So if you guys are interested in that Schoology webinar, it's right there in that chat. Awesome.
Yeah. And I guess that's something else that, Beth, maybe we could touch on here. At the elementaries, we use Google Classroom. In our district, 512 uses Schoology, but these templates can be used with or without an LMS, a learning management system. If you know students' email addresses, or you have the ability to maybe put it on your website or some method of getting it to the kids, you can use that template preview link that we even share on each of our templates. Just copy and paste that link. You can also give that to your students, and they can make their own copies of it and have it in their own drives. You'll definitely want to talk to them about organization. Let's be real. Classroom, Schoology, those help with the organization on the back end. But it absolutely can be done with or without having an LMS ready to go at your fingertips. Okay, so we're on the second half of our time with you guys today. So we just kind of wanted to highlight a few of the templates that are on our site, more than quick hitters, more than what we did just previously with the other ones. And if you notice on here, Beth has a great, for the younger student teachers, a standards-based grade book. It's done in Google Sheets. Beth, if you want to talk about that one real quick.
Yeah, so the way that our district does it in the younger grades from, I think it's K to 3, we have standards-based report cards, so it's not necessarily points-based. So in order to keep track of the standards that I've covered and that kind of thing, I've created this spreadsheet where every single Ohio standard is at the bottom in different tabs. And it allows me to keep track of where all of my students are. It allows me to make sure that I've covered everything that I need to be covering. And it automatically averages it for me, because we don't just give one grade or one standards rubric for each individual standard. It's like all of reading. So all of the reading standards are down there. I give a 1, 2, 3, 4 for each of those standards, and then it'll automatically average those over. So that definitely is the teacher side of it. The great thing about that is that you can take and put your own standards in it across the bottom and make it your own. So if you're lucky enough to be an Ohio 3rd grade teacher, it's already pretty much done for you. But if you're not, then all you have to do is change those standards. They're at the bottom, they're sideways so that it fits on a screen, one screen at a time. So yeah, I use it all the time. Like, I've used it for several years now, and it makes my life a whole lot easier, so that when I go to actually do report cards, I can just look at my already averaged standards-based grade book, and it's done for me. So it's a huge time saver for me personally. But yeah, that's definitely one on the teacher side.
Going back, one of the ones on the student side that I'd like to highlight is this informational postcards. This is one that I do. It's kind of one of my little, I mean, all of these are our babies, right? But this one has a pretty cool backstory to it. We had for a while before all of this COVID hit, and we maybe had a little bit more time on our hands than we do now. But we had a form on our website where we invited people that came to our site to suggest or to ask for help. And Beth and I were trying to also create templates for teachers who were out there. We had to take that down because, quite honestly, we don't have that much extra time anymore. I would love to see that come back at some point, but for now, temporarily, it's gone. But this one is directly out of that idea, where a science teacher had contacted us and said she wanted to do a small writing activity. Not like a 5-paragraph essay or 5-page paper or anything like that. She wanted it small. And I had just recently seen somebody do a postcard. And I thought, oh, that's really cool. Kids don't really know what postcards are anymore, but they are confined spaces, right? They're small. They're not meant to be even full-on letters. So the backstory to this one is this teacher reached out to us and asked for some help. I emailed back and forth with her a couple of times. We settled on a postcard idea, and therefore we now have this informational postcards that's out there for anyone to use. And again, like most all of the other templates that we have that's geared towards student use, it's modifiable, if that's an actual word, I'm not sure. But I also kind of gave the directions in the format of a postcard so that students that aren't super comfortable with what a postcard is, they kind of get the preview of it through the directions. So that's another thing that Beth and I are also trying to keep in mind, is that the templates, while they're comfortable and familiar to us, we try to make it somewhat universal, or at least general enough that anyone can use them. And again, I give a couple of different fronts to the postcards. The students can pick one, they could design their own, and then they're off to the races and they type away. And again, the smaller the space. This one, actually, she was a high school biology teacher, if I'm remembering correctly. And I said, you can adjust the font size if you need to, if the kids want to fill in more or less. So keep those other things in mind as well. That can all be modified, whether by you or for your students.
What else is really great about our templates? You can see on the screen that's in front of you, or was, some of them, there you can see those little green arrows that are coming off. All of those are dialogue boxes. And so what we've done on a lot of our templates is that's where we put the instructions that the students can use, or even you can use, on how to actually use the postcards and what to change and how to change things. So yeah, so Sarah, if you want to click on like that 3rd or 4th slide, so they can see. So if you kind of go over to the side, you can tell that all of those are the instructional boxes that tell the kids or the teachers how to change things, to give them ideas or instructions on how to do it, so that even if you talk about it with them first, and then of course, by the time they go to do it independently, maybe they forgot to do something, they can look at those little instruction boxes and those bubbles. And then once they actually do it, they can delete those bubbles, kind of as a checklist to say that they've actually done that part. So if you look at that one that's on the screen, it said to type your name in, and then it even says delete me when you're done. So hopefully they remember to delete you when you're done. I've done that with kids, and then I still see all the dialogue boxes around it, even though they finished it, they just didn't delete them. So you have to give a little intro or explanation on how to delete the little dialogue boxes, which are where the directions are. So, but if you see those on our templates, little arrows come in and off the sides, those are just, it's directions. It's already there for the kids. So you don't even need to actually add anything if you don't want to.
And that can go a long way. Beth and I are big believers in allowing our students to be independent. So again, keep in mind the age group of your students, but at 3rd grade for Beth, these kids can read this. 99% of them can, right? Independently. And if they understand what it is, they can work independently while Beth is going around and making sure that the students that need a little bit more of the support get the support that they need, while the other ones that are able to independently work, they can go with it. And like Beth said, almost as like a checklist. And if that's gone and you still see your name there, you got to talk with your student, right? Give them those explicit instructions that they're obviously not reading all of those directions, which again is a skill that kids need to have. Read directions. Okay, let's go back here. These are all such cool, who would win. Beth and I could sit here, honestly, I don't know what, Beth, for hours and talk about each and every one of these.
We've got about 10 minutes left though.
I know. We don't have that kind of time. So please check them all out. Oops, I went too fast, sorry. We already talked about the labels. We use probably slides the most. Google Drawings, probably the best way to describe, like for Beth's Google Classroom header that we showed you up here. It kind of basically is one Google slide instead of having the ability to have multiple slides as we do in some of these other ones, like the newsletter template. You can have multiple ones. So Google Slides is by far one of our favorites. Google Docs, we have plenty of those in there as well, because that's definitely geared towards those that are writing up longer essays or paragraph types of ideas. Sheets is probably one of our fewer used ones, but I personally am a big believer in Sheets. I love Sheets, and Google Forms is also awesome. So think about checking out all of the different file types that we have on there as well. We also do have a few extra pages on our website, which I'm going to go ahead and jump over there. And Beth, if you want to talk about, maybe the created by others.
Yeah, so as much as we want to inspire you, we've also been inspired by a lot of other educators and people who are online that we found. A lot of the times we'll find things through Twitter, but some of the people that we follow and the things that they have that are just truly inspirational, we've added to this Created by Others page because we want you guys to be able to be inspired by them as well. So Eric Kurtz, he's an Ohio-based guy, so we kind of take pride in him, even though he's like not close to us. He's about 4 hours away. But Eric Kurtz has been a huge, he's an inspiration to what we do. Slides Mania is amazing. She's actually out of, I want to say Portugal, but I'm not sure if that's accurate. Okay. She has amazing slide templates that she's made. They're also all free. Everybody that we have on here, they're all free. Ryan O'Donnell also has some amazing games and things that you can do. But yeah, and Tony Vincent has great tech tips. You should definitely follow these people on Twitter, even if you don't go to their websites. But those are just some of the Created by Others that we think are fantastic and we are definitely inspired by. Yeah, so Tony is amazing. There's also, on the next part over is the how-to videos. So if you want to click on that, this is us trying to help you make your own templates. So all of these, there's information you can read through, but then if you keep on scrolling down, we also have videos for just like short little videos that tell you how to do a bunch of different things. So changing the layouts, inserting words. And the great thing about these is, well, Sarah and I are both teachers. So not only are we hoping to help you in creating your templates, you can have your kids watch these videos as well. You can give them the links to these videos. Maybe you create something where all of the links are in on it. You can just have them come to our website and tell them to click on certain links, and we can teach them how to do some of these things. So our hope with that is that it's not only helping our colleagues, but we can also help your kids as well. So there's tons of different, there's even one down there on sharing the Schoology, Roberta. Maybe that will be helpful too. So it's just a quick little video for that.
And Beth, they could, if they wanted to, follow us on YouTube. Although I will say our YouTube channel is not, it's not like crazy. Like it has these videos on there. That's where we put them all. So make sure that you check this out. And like Beth said, share this out to your kids. We promise that we're teachers too. We keep it clean. You don't have to worry about any bad things popping out of our videos. And down at the bottom, we do go into, like Beth had just mentioned, about how to share it a classroom, Schoology, out on social media. If you do share it out on social media, we would absolutely adore it if you tweeted at us, if you also, let us know how you were making it. We've seen several tweets, like after we did some of those face-to-face conferences, from back in the day, and they would tag us and we could see what other people had done with the templates, scaling them up to older students or just modifying to fit a particular content better than what we had shared out initially. We love seeing what other teachers make too. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful information. And then if you're...
Sarah, real quick, does Google Drawings, somebody asked in the chat, does Google Drawing templates work on iPads? I believe they do. You have to have the app for it and they can edit, but I may be wrong for that. I haven't used iPads in a long time with...
Yeah, and when you get into using iPads, you definitely have to have that particular app. I will be honest with you and say it's not as simple to do. I believe it can be done. So yes, it's possible. Just maybe you as the teacher kind of give it a try before you give it to your students, just to make sure that you're using the right template, you're using the right format, you're using the right tools to make sure that the frustration level is not going to be there for the kids, because that's what you don't want. You don't want the kids to be so frustrated that they can't actually accomplish the task. So keep those things in mind too. And I see that we're getting lots of comments because we're coming towards the end. Again, thank you everyone for coming. If you have questions or you want to specifically ask something, please pop that into the chat. Beth and I will hang around, for a couple of minutes after Desiree takes back over, and we'll answer any of the questions that are in there. But again, thank you for joining us. Share out our website too. Again, we're all about teachers helping teachers. So share them out, tell your colleagues about them, tweet at us, follow us on Twitter, ask us questions. We're more than happy to help you guys. So, and also have a great school year, whatever your situation might be. Have a wonderful school year. And remember, those kiddos, they just want to know that they're important to you. And we as teachers just need to remember that those are the kids that, that mean a lot, is the ones that come, whether virtually or face-to-face with you. So share the love with them as well.
Can I ask a question? Someone private messaged me about a possible math template, and I saw that you had math in the drop down. Can you maybe show one of the math ones right quick?
Yep. Let's go to labels. Did I click math? I feel like I clicked math.
The fractions with sheets is in there. If you go to that second row.
This fractions one is one that, again, I created for a classroom teacher. And this is one where we were working with fractions with the students. And this one does allow you to create digital fraction blocks, is what the teacher was referring to them as. The kids can change color, again, just to give them a little bit of ownership. They can kind of see how the pieces fit together. On this second tab was about up to the 12th. Then the kids get to do some fractions. I'm a big believer in the visual aspect. So when you're looking at different colors, it also helps the kids to understand how the fractions piece together. There's, so down at the bottom, looking at these tabs, I've created this kind of as building blocks when they get a little bit more advanced as you move on further and further. So like the Your Turn had some numbers filled in. Math with Fractions does not have numbers filled in. The students would have to go through and do that. And then the next tab allows the students to create their own fractions, which again, it's all digital. So this would work very nicely if you were in a virtual setting with students. It also works nicely if you're face-to-face, keeping that social distancing aspect for it as well. And then finally, kind of to give the kids a little bit of a reward, doing some pixel art, which is fantastic. I do have a template or two about using Google Sheets to do some pixel art, but then adding the layer of math on here, they have to count up all the different colors and make it into fractions. So it's kind of a cool way to step through fractions. Well, let's see if there's any. And another
question maybe about either physics or the foreign language classroom. I'm guessing it would be any of these that they can modify, but I just wanted to make sure you got that question.
Yeah, I mean, it would just be finding ones that you think are interesting or could work with you and just kind of modifying them to fit yours. Third grade, we don't really do physics. So I can't speak for that. And we don't have foreign language in third grade either. But somebody had messaged Sarah about changing everything, not everything, but some of them over into Portuguese.
Yeah.
So
some of our
they want to take things and, yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
she had asked if she could take some of our templates and translate them into Portuguese. So I'm assuming then her students would be Portuguese speakers, and then they could literally take our templates and instead of where it has all of the English words, it becomes Portuguese. That's another thing, Monica, that you could have them practicing. Maybe they take something that's definitely geared towards a younger student, like a little Scholastic News magazine. They could write it in English first, but then maybe on another, this one is a Google slide, maybe on another slide, they have to translate that same information and write it in whatever foreign language it is that they're studying or that they're trying to practice. Or they create one and then they share collaboratively. I would share mine with Beth, she shares me hers, and then I have to translate hers, and you go back and forth. That might be another way to utilize these templates. So taking one that's geared a little bit more towards the younger kids, but then taking it and adjusting it to fit your own content.
So I'm going to definitely say thank you so much to Sarah and Beth for this webinar. Make sure that you understand that if you want a certificate of participation, that you fill out the evaluation. The evaluation is number 1 on the list in the chat if you're watching us live. And what I want to do right now is, before we kind of wrap up, because again, we do have a second webinar at 1 p.m. Central. So before we kind of wrap up on time, I want to make it to where you can unmute yourself and ask any last minute question. I know I saw one about PNG pictures and slides. So I'm just going to allow you to unmute yourself. We're going to take just a couple of more questions if you have any, and then we're going to wrap this up. So any questions, you can hop on the mic right now and put those thank yous in the chat.
Hi, I have a question about can we use the templates with the smart learning suite?
Like, are you talking smart boards?
Yes, the smart board, and it's online, but it's the same as it's the smart board, but it's online. Yes, so you build it and then you put it in the slides and then you use it, but then you can share with the kids. That's why it's the online. So can the templates be used with the smart board or the?
You are welcome to try. That's not something I have personally tackled. We don't have smart boards in our district. So I say, have at it. Check it out. And then you can let us know, right?
Okay.
And then we can share it that way.
I will. Thank you so much.
I will say, just from previous experience, Smart does not play well with Google, and Google does not play well with Smart. So try it, but don't get your hopes up. Not right now.
Well, the Smart is connected to the Google Drive, so whatever I have in the Google Drive will go to the online part of the Smart. So it might.
Try it out.
I'll try. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. You're welcome. Next question.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hello.
She can go ahead. We both started at the same time. Go ahead.
Okay, whoever she is, go ahead. Okay, Arnott. Jean, go ahead.
Okay, I appreciate it. And I'm not trying to hijack your conversation, but she did bring up the topic of Schoology. And I just want to ask a real quick question. Sometimes when my students submit assignments in Schoology, and like if I use one of your templates and I send it up, I set it up for them to do something on it and then submit it. Some students' work comes back, and when I click on it, it opens up and I can do what I need to do to it to grade it. But some students it will come back as an attachment, and I have to download it and do what I need to do to it. So if anybody knows anything about that right there, that would be so helpful.
I believe that is the students submitting it back to you differently. So in the situation,
Okay.
Open it up and, like you said, do what you need to do with it. I think they're using like that turn it in button or submit button. And then the ones that are doing it as an attachment are actually submitting back to you the link as an attachment as opposed to just turning back in what it is that you've given to them.
Oh, Roberta said in the chat that students have to sync their drives to Schoology. She found that out the hard way out this week. So is that maybe, I don't use Schoology, so Sarah would know better than me, but maybe making sure that their drives are synced to Schoology. Does that sound like a thing?
Yeah, you definitely have to sync the drive.
Okay, I'll let them know. Thank y'all so much.
Sure.
I have a question about taking and setting a PNG of like a snippet of a worksheet, a PDF worksheet, and setting it as a background in Google Slides. And when I do that, the image gets distorted a little bit. Is there a way to work around that so that the image comes out a little bit clearer? I know that it's not necessarily about your templates, but I've been looking for an answer and haven't been able to find one. So I wanted to ask an expert.
The thing you have to remember about when you insert something as the background, as opposed to just putting it in there, so it is kind of like laying on top of the slide, is that it's going to automatically stretch it to fit whatever your dimensions are of your slide. So it will, unless you have that PNG automatic, like already, I should say, pre-planned to be the exact size of your slide. So if you're thinking like in a printing case, it would be 8.5 by 11 inches, right? And your background would have to be either centered in on that 8.5. So when you're taking a picture of your worksheet, which is what I think you said you were referring to, and you put it in there, it's going to automatically stretch. So make sure that you're aware of that. One thing that Beth and I have found very successful is maybe you take your picture, put it in on the slide, get it to the size that you want, and then download that particular slide. So it's like the image on top of your slide, whether it's, you know, the top half so that they have the bottom half to free write, or it's in the center of it. Download that slide then so it looks exactly like what you want, and then upload that as your background picture so that the sizes, the dimensions all fit. Another idea is to use the master, which I will not lie, has intimidated me for a long time. But thanks to Slides Mania and her really like talking about and sharing about how she uses the master in Google Slides, totally has changed my view on it.
Thank you. That's very helpful.
She has a really great tutorial. That Slides Mania has a great tutorial about using the master slide too. I've been starting that as well lately. And
yeah,
it's not as scary as I thought it was.
Exactly, right? Until you know what you're doing, it seems very intimidating.
I wouldn't say that I totally know what I'm doing yet, but I'm way better than I was.
Right.
So any last questions? Going once, going twice.
Can I ask a last question at the last minute, please?
Yes, you can.
And it's not about the template, but this is something I really, really need to do. It's the extensions. Like, how can we take a register for the kids online? Because we're starting with the kids, and this is my big concern right now. We need to have like a registration, like attendance. Is there any extension we can upload and then help us?
You're talking about in a virtual manner or in a face-to-face doing?
Virtual. Everything is virtual right now in Kuwait.
I think a lot of it depends on your platform, like you're using Zoom or Google Meet. I believe there was a Meet attendance extension that was pushed out.
Yeah, it's called Meet Attendance.
Yeah. And I know that if you're using like Zoom, some people have talked about having students or teachers put in the chat their name as a means of taking attendance, and then you have the chat as a record. Another option would be to use a Google form for attendance. That's time stamped. ask them the questions that you need to ask them, whether it's just their name or not. But I don't know of like just an extension that collects attendance. It's more connected with whatever your platform is.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Okay, so that was the last question. The evaluation closes in 2 minutes. So please make sure that you fill out that evaluation if you want the certificate. Because again, we need to shut everything down to bring everything back up for the next webinar. So Sarah and Beth, thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thank you
Desiree.
so much.